मुलाकात होगी, वो आएगी ना?
आएगी।
I have been binge watching this absolutely delightful Pakistani collaboration Indian web series called Barzakh, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm so delighted to have with us Sanam Saeed, who we've been in conversation with before, previously for Umro Ayar, and she's now spearheading this series. And of course, with a wonderful, wonderful talent, Fawad Khan, who's also joining us. So congratulations to you both, and a warm welcome to you on filmeshilmy.com.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I think a very convoluted series like Barzakh warrants a very convoluted question to begin with. Sanam, I'm going to begin with you. You've witnessed Asim Abbasi, the director's journey since Cake. And I think as you and I were discussing before the interview started, was about how Cake really was like a warm-up in terms of really getting these whole layered emotions and this whole concept of self-discovery, loss of innocence, all these themes, that one tends to face in their real life. Your character sort of faces that in this series as well, but yet it's also very much coated with this whole spiritual, mystic sort of a vibe. How how difficult was it for you to actually digest and sort of compartmentalize all these different layers of the character?
I think that's why rehearsals just really help. When you read the script over and over and over again, you understand new things about it. Every time you pick it up to read it again, you read it with a different perspective, or you pick up on one of these layers and then you use that as your driving force to understand it. Then you pick it up again using another layer as a driving force. And then the rehearsal space. And then when you interact with your fellow actors, that also helps deepen the understanding of the story, of the trajectory, and of your character. Like Shahrazad was formed, she was created in the rehearsal space. I mean, Asim wrote her, but the way we decided to play her out was purely based on my interactions with both Fawad, Salman Shahid, and the children. And then we just figure her out there. So rehearsal space is how we get to that understanding.
Right. And I think, when we're talking about layered characters, and I think also about facing one's identity, where we also talk about suppressed emotions, I think if there is a character that really does represent that, it is Fawad, who plays Seth in the series. Again, like my same question that I asked you, Sanam, there's so many layers to the character. I mean, the whole paternal sort of dysfunctionality that he has with his dad has this very godlike complex. For you as an artist, how emotionally and mentally taxing was it actually to go through that entire process and really bring out those emotions on screen?
Okay, so well, there are artists who tend to talk about their characters and they're like, oh God, we went through that character and I was never able to come out of that character. It's not like that with me. uh, and it's I mean, of course, there are things that you see and you recognize. Whenever you read a script, you're like, okay, this is an emotion, this is a particular kind of uh, experience that I am familiar with, or something that I can really truly imagine. And there are some strange moments where you feel like, okay, this is something new. This is something that me as a human being is I as Fawad Khan is not familiar with. I'm not familiar with this, so I need to work on that. I need to find out how to bring that truth out, like how to make it true for me. So by true for me does not necessarily mean that I have to really um I mean, it's difficult to say how emotionally taxing something is, because when it's happening, it's I remember being on set of Barzakh. I was somehow very awkward with the whole cast, some way or the other, and I did not do much about it because the character Saifullah was itself was kind of um, awkward with his whole family. And I was like, okay, so if it's happening, I don't need to worry about it. Let me stay uncomfortable somehow or the other.
Why were you uncomfortable with us?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. by uncomfortable, I don't mean that I was
You were very
like anyone was
aloof.
treating me badly. I just mean that, yeah, maybe the place was doing some. What I'm trying to say is, coming back to the question, is there were things that were happening to me while doing that character, and it was taxing, but not in a way that this is happening because of the character as such. But it's also overall the environment, maybe the cold. For the first time in my life, I was like, "Where's the sun?" Living in Karachi, it's not something that you usually do that often. Yeah.
Okay, look, I think in the meantime, until he comes back, why don't I ask Sanam? I think I'll just ask you about your internal process. I know you said you had a lot of rehearsals with obviously with Asim. You've read the script, but I think जो एक internal emotions होते हैं ना, because I feel like a lot of the characters that you have played actually have very strongly rooted in identity. And as obvious as that sounds, but I think the way you've managed to really portray them, there's a very sense of almost like this calmness but fierceness that all your characters have, right? So again, what your a character trait hai aapka, how much did that come useful actually for your internalized sort of portrayal of this?
Sorry, I'm here again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. I'll just ask Sanam a question because you had disappeared. So I'll come back to you once Sanam has answered. So Sanam.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just okay, sure. I had come up with another one incident that really did surprise me. But go ahead.
Yeah, go on, Sanam.
I think I don't know what it is when we just read a script that is so well written out and so nuanced and layered, as cliched and as basic as the answer is, we just become it. And that's why rehearsals are so important, particularly for projects like this, because it just allows you to अपनाओ that character. आप बिल्कुल ही उस character को में लिपट जाते हो, वो आपको लिपट लेता है, आप उसको अपना लेते हो, you just become it. And it's important to rehearse characters like this, not rehearse how you're going to do it, but rehearse the comfort level, rehearse the lines, rehearse the situations, just so that it becomes you. Not to be over prepared or anything, because when you're thrown into the mountains, as Fawad was saying, it's a really different energy there. And then you're away from home for like 2 months, and then you're not used to the weather, and you're not used to having any sun. So those other factors can throw you off, which is why you must come a little bit prepared, just to be able to, find your balance if you're thrown off. That's what's important. And I think because it does have this very spiritual undertone to it, and it is about life after death, and many of us have lost a very close loved one, these questions do arise. Would we ever kabhi mulaqat hogi ya nahi hogi? Are they around us? Are they present? Can we feel their presence in any way at any time? I think these are all questions that we all kind of dapple with or ask ourselves and ask other people around us. And I think all of us came with this collective belief in the story and in the ideologies that it was just very easy to accept and take on as a challenge, but also really with a lot of pleasure and love and dedication and focus to tell this story, and for people to be able to connect with this story and everyone's story, including the mother and son tracks, the brothers tracks, the father and child tracks, the old and young children, the way they their interaction, Saifullah and Lorenzo's relationship. There are all these aspects of love lost, unrequited love, guilt, just so many different dimensions were explored in Asim script that it was very easy to find that balance between being mystical and serious and kind of wanting the audience to believe in what you are trying to present to them. You had to have that belief. And then the story just in itself was very spiritual, and I think it just had an effect on all of us.
Oh wow, that's so beautiful. And I think that's going to be a good segue, I think, to bring back Fawad into the conversation, because I know there was
first of all, yes, it is, as Sanam also said, it's the process in itself is complex and it's difficult to talk about it. There's so many multiple things happening at the same time. But this one moment that we're talking about was the one in which Sepala really breaks down. He puts his head in the pillow and he just is crying out loud and screaming in the pillow. When we did that scene, once we were done with the scene, I could not stop crying. It was like something has just, like it took me some time to really stop myself. Okay, I'm not even saying that I was really I recalled any particular moment as such to do that, but something really got triggered at times. If things happen to you, then you don't know why that happened, and I don't know. It took me some time to come out to get
What can I
just
ask you a
stop crying.
question? What about
Like, yeah,
that
sure.
Anuj, if you saw that scene with Saifullah and Salman Shahid when they danced to Dekha Na Tha?
Oh God, yeah, that scene. Oh
You
my.
know, half of it, like the last half was all improvised. Asim never called cut, and Fawad and Salman Shahid just ran with it.
Really? No.
Yeah, half of that, almost more
Yeah.
than half of that was all improv.
Wow.
That's how much they became the characters.
Oh my God, right. I want to know a bit more about this because I think this is such a beautiful, because this is where the artistry comes into it, right? This is where the acting portion comes into it. So talk us through that scene then, and thanks for that, Sarah. That's a really beautiful sort of lead into that. So Fawad, if you could please enlighten us a little bit more about that, because I think this
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, the scene was supposed to end when he says, "Okay, I'll just go away and I will never come back," something like that.
मैं यूं गया
Shahrukh
और मैं
Khan का
यूं and हाँ.
मैं यूं गया और मैं यूं आया and गया और वापस नहीं आया, कुछ इस तरह की का जुमला है. And then, but Asim never said cut, and so of course it's just also one thing that we keep doing is as long as the director is not saying cut, we have to stay in and do what it. Can you hear me or not? No.
We can hear you. It's
No?
lagging a little, but we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just Salman Shahid himself is really crazy, and his energy just you can't help but respond to what he's doing, and he suddenly started saying dance karo nacho, and I'm like, okay, but yeah, but also staying in character, wanting to do something for the father, this whole trying to come up with this I don't know, in that moment to really come to
Please
terms
him.
with the fact that the father wants to leave and the father wants to end things. That's what made it go on, I think. I don't know. Things happen. As I said, those moments cannot be described in words. It's not easy for me. It's not easy. Am I audible?
Yes,
Can
yes,
you
Yeah.
guys hear me?
we can hear you. We can hear you. And I think also, Fawad, I think because you come from a theatre background, and Salman sir also comes from a theatre background, and I don't know, I've noticed this that when it comes to spontaneity, theatre just brings that out so naturally, I think, in you as actors. I mean, Fawad, I've also seen I mean, correct me if you are the right Fawad. I think also did a film called Gardab many years ago. I mean, you did that film, right? That is you, right? Just wanted to clarify.
Yes, I did.
Okay, amazing, good.
Yes.
I remember watching that, and I remember just seeing how
You watched Kitab as well. Okay.
yes, I did. It was at the film festival, so I managed to catch it. And there was this very natural instinct that, that you have as an actor where you don't, ऐसा कभी लगता नहीं है कि एक zone out, zone in हो रहा है, I think for you talk to me about the theatre and how that has been a very important backdrop for you to use as a reference point in all your characters. Would love to know a bit more about that.
So theater, I've been doing theater for the last 15 years. I studied at the National Academy of Performing Arts. And of course, the training has to do a lot with it. Can you hear me? I'm stuck again. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I did get the training from the National Academy of Performing Arts. It was a 3-year course. But see, talking about the acting process, it can be a very simple. And so, for example, you have to stay in character. It's as simple as that, and it's as complex as that. It's you have to respond to the situations as things are happening, as things are coming to you. You have to be open to things instead of trying to impose things. You have to let things be at times. That acceptance for spontaneity requires a lot of focus, requires a lot of team effort, requires a lot of rehearsals, requires a lot of understanding of the text, analysis, discussions, research. Asim gave me, for this character, he gave me a book. It was called Velvet Rage. So I went through that book. This whole pent up rage that tends to come out in strange places. So yeah, all of it combined creates things. And yeah, theater has performing all these 15 years has helped me grow as an actor, definitely. But it has also relaxed me in a bit, in a way. What over the years I've come to understand what the stories, what the story demands. At times, it's not about what you're really feeling. It's about what the story is demanding. At times, it's simply about just listening to the other person, not really worrying about anything else. Not really about worrying about performing. Maybe performance is not required at all.
It's a bit of spirituality there, you know. I love that. That was a very profound way of describing it and quite apt as well. But I think, Sanam, for you, you know, as I mentioned, I think even in our interview that we did for Umroya, we spoke about the way the roles of women have really evolved over time. And I think, you know, Kashaf is such a iconic character that even years after the series has obviously telecasted, people still reference it. They still, you know, sort of it's a symbol of strength, right? When it comes to the sort of television and the visual representation of Pakistani dramas. For you, when you look at your character in Barzakh and then you look back at Kashaf, how would you say that your life experiences have really helped you to grow, and in a way maybe elevated you in terms of actually using those reference points as an actor as well?
I think the value system and the values instilled in me by my surrounding, particularly my parents, allowed me to believe in standing up for what is right and raising my voice for the voiceless, and not sitting back and taking things just because I've been told to take them without questioning them. I think that environment that I was raised in allowed me to understand the importance of having a voice and of speaking up. And when I got characters that had these empowering qualities about them, female empowering qualities, it again came naturally to me. I wasn't scared of performing them, because I really believed in their characters and in the message that they were trying to pass on. And again, family values, patience, taking care of elders, something that I've always done, always nursed my grandparents, my mother when she was sick. So, you know, whether it was in Cake or the mother and sister bond in Zindagi Gulzar Hai, or taking care of JK in Barzakh, that's something that comes naturally to me. So I'm very comfortable around children and around the elderly and how to take care of them. Spirituality is something that has always been practiced in the house, in all forms. Being exposed to all kinds of religions, but really just the essence of it, being a good human being, a kind human being kind to people, animals, nature, yourself, your body, not abusing it and things and people around you, the kind of language you use, the volume you speak at. It's not like, oh, don't laugh out loud and adhimi awaaz mein baat karo, but just like the tone, you know, the tone, my mother was always big on, like, you know, watch your tone if it was going out of hand, or like, or I saw how people understood me better, or I understood my parents better when their tone was a particular way. In the moment that tone went up. So I think that tonal gradation, or whatever you call it, is something that was ingrained in me bachpan se. And I'd like to think, and then whatever little theater I've been doing on and off, I think that helps me value the work I do and really give it the respect, the dedication, and the discipline it requires. So again, I value time, I value my work, I value other people's time, I value like people's perceptions. So it's all about, yeah, the values that have been instilled from work in theater and then at home and the people and my grandparents and people who have surrounded me. I hope that answers.
Oh gosh, it reflects so much in your craft, honestly. You know, when you were describing it, in my mind, I was just seeing like images of the characters you've played and how that's really definitely transpired. You know, your upbringing, the sort of life you've had, and I think well done to your parents and to your family for doing that. I think it's wonderful to see that. When I interviewed Asim for Churails, I remember that, you know, I said, you know, it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers, and he you know what Asim is like when he responds? He's very tongue-in-cheek and very calmly. He was like, I think it's time to ruffle some feathers. So for you again, how much were you expecting that sort of a reaction as well? Because there's also been the love as well that people are praising the aesthetic of it too at the same time.
It's interesting. It's a pattern of three that I've noticed. So there's complete awe and love and bewilderment and amazement and appreciation for the show and the cinematography and the characters and the nuances and a lot of love. There's the first one is a lot of love and appreciation. Then the second one is kuch samajh mein nahi aaya. You know, like they don't understand anything. They're like, and they want to understand it, but they're struggling. And then the third one is a lot of hate, only because it's touched upon the homosexual relationship. And it's not even a homosexual relationship like that. It's, again, but, you know, we'll just be quoted and we'll be said that we are now, you know, XYZ. But it's, and Asim, on our group, Asim said something really important, which we all feel, you know, we always, bachon ki aankhein band kar dete when there's any scene of, like, there's a basic kissing scene, right? It doesn't have to be a sex scene. It's just intimacy between two people, whether they're married or not. We're human beings. And that they'll quickly cover the eyes of the child. But if there's like blood and gore and gali galoch and like guns and knives and like violence, children are so normalized they're so used to seeing violence. It's completely normalized now. But love and any form of love and any display of love between people, man or woman or the same sex, it's kind of like, oh, aankhein band kar do. Like they were traumatized by the opening scene of Barzakh, but they really got over that. Now all the focus is just on Lorenzo and Saifullah. And I'm like, you know, in my head, I'm like, guys, you guys were redeemed. Okay, he pushed him off. Okay, he's not accepting it. He's guilty about it. Like, just get over it now. I hope that push like made them be like, ha, sahi kya? Because you can't change people, and we're not out here to convert people or judge people or say that they're wrong or right. Everyone is to each his own. Everyone has their own set of upbringing, beliefs, systems, whatever. We're no one to judge, and no one can judge us either, I think. But it's these three, and it is upsetting and worrisome to see the third reaction be so strong, because I mean, I can't, and I don't want to say too much on it because it just gets misconstrued, and I've been under fire already for several things. So it's just focus on things that are hurting people and affecting people in society and worry about that. Don't focus on what God has ordained as right and wrong, because it's a very personal journey. We're not out to like be the bearers of like what is right and wrong, but like where किसी पे जब तशद्दुद हो रहा है, औरतों पे हो रहा है, वायलेंस हो रहा है, बच्चों पे हो रहा है, बच्चाबाजी हो रही है, जहां पे भी दुनिया में बच्चों पे जुल्म हो रहा है, उस पे फोकस करो, उस पे अपनी आवाज उठाओ, उस पे like, you know, like go out on social media and be the warriors for the sake of protecting the weaker person or the weaker sex or a child or you know, जिस पे तशद्दुद हो रहा है.
जी बिल्कुल.
But I mean, obviously feathers were ruffled in that, a woman saying such things, you know, it's we're getting there. Every society has taken their time to expand their horizon and deepen their understanding of human existence and possibilities. Some of us are, you know, very many steps behind, but we're getting there. And it's important for these things to come out and to allow people to express themselves and to Yeah, I mean, they may never accept it, but it's okay. That's what I was telling Asim. I said, I hope one day we can show a show that literally spoon feeds them these two perspectives, where the audience themselves, especially the haters, can't help but see the mirror and question it themselves. Like all their answers will be answered for them. There is no right or wrong. They will be able to judge that because of the way the content is shown. I really want to do something like that where the mirror is shown to them.
And I think what people don't, understand, and you know what, I'm so glad we're having this discussion, Sanam, because I've been in this mindset for a while, to be honest, where, you know, see, where people often use this whole term saying religion causes wars. I vehemently disagree with that statement because for me, religion is something which is very sacred to one another. Okay. It's something that is very pure. It's beyond any kind of human thought process, any kind of warfare, any kind of conflict. और अगर देखा जाए हम सारे जो धर्मों के एक वो जो एक असूल है is to fight for the good. Right. But what happens is humans misconstrue that. And I think even in Barzakh, there's also that sense, that's also an underlining theme also, where we see even through the whole dysfunctional sort of family sort of fabric, we also see this whole sense of spirituality. Even with spirituality, there's layers. And I absolutely, absolutely love that about the show. And I completely agree with what you're saying as well.
You said that
The
you didn't
response,
humanize anything. The script was already humanized for you. That's
yeah,
the last.
the script had already done that. The humanization aspect had already been done by the script. Other than that, regarding the response of the audience, I mean, it is their right. They're watching it. First of all, this could have been a project which we could have sent somewhere where people from Pakistan would not have been able to see, right? But I am glad that Pakistani people are watching it. So there is an engagement with the audience, and if they don't like it, it's fair enough. It's their right. They hate it. They can dislike it. It's fair enough. But my point is that I think we should in as far as any work of art is concerned, we should first of all think about is it aesthetically right or not? Does it fulfill the aesthetic demands? If it's doing that, rest of it, what it's saying, what its agenda is, whether it's um, is it is it fulfilling the demands of feminism or Marxism or any religion? That is, for me, it's secondary. For me, the first thing is it complete as a work of art? And I feel Barzakh is that. A lot of people question why is there this story, this homosexuality has been added here. It's not added here. It's not there just out of just for inclusivity's sake. It is there because we have a series that is dealing with masculinity and different aspects of masculinity, and it's precisely one. It's just one aspect.
I did want to clarify this isn't, people think is it an agenda? Some people. There is no agenda. Like you need the token LGBTQ angle to a story. Barzakh means limbo land, being stuck when you're like, I just don't know where I'm going. I can't go aage piche. I don't know who I am, what I am, where I am. Shahzad is मैं कौन हूँ मैं क्या हूँ वो अपनी बरज़ख में है. सलमान शाहिद अपनी बरज़ख से गुजर रहे हैं. शहरयार अपने बरज़ख से गुजर रहे हैं और सैफुल्लाह अपनी बरज़ख से गुजर रहे हैं. और उनका बरज़ख ये है कि मैं कौन हूँ, मेरी आइडेंटिटी क्या है. He has no love in his life. He's a grown man with no companionship. Everyone needs love. He doesn't know कि मर्द से मिलना औरत से नहीं ये गलत है लेकिन ये फील हो रहा है. Like he's struggling. He's not asking for these feelings to come and asking to be like tortured and tormented. He's suffering, and he's suffering with a double whammy, with just the way Shahryar is, with the loss of a wife and as being a single dad, having no parents to help support him because his father's crazy, mother's not there. And Saifullah is, so Asim is really just showing the turmoil that any human being at any given time experiences. And that is really important. And that is why we have these stories and characters. There is no agenda.
No, absolutely.
Other shows have it. I don't know sometimes. And as viewers, you do feel connected to stories. And as viewers, you do feel like that was just really forced or unnecessary. I feel like that about some shows. So it's okay for people to have that opinion, but it's also important for them to understand and realize that this is the barzakh that people go through also. And so just watch it like that.
Correct. Absolutely. I couldn't have agreed more. But I think also, Sanam, because I'm very sort of reassured to some extent that, because sometimes I watch these Hollywood horror films, and it really disturbs me sometimes because I find the whole sort of worshipping of negative energies and negative entities over God, it disturbs my soul. There was one film I watched recently that I had to walk out of because the energy was so strong. But at the same time, when I look at Barzakh, even though it's still quite dark in essence, but it's reassuring because we've had Umro Ayar recently. You've had The Goat Life in Malayalam. We also had Kalki. So it's wonderful to know that there's also stories that are very much looking at God and the presence of God, the essence that, even if we agar hum ek darkness se guzar rahe hain, to there's also a roshni that's also there. So how do you feel about the way such stories are also emerging? And do you think that's also kind of very apt because of the sort of times we're living in right now, with the warfare and conflicts going on in the world?
I think these stories have always been made. There's always the good versus the fight between good and evil, whether it was superhero films or alien invasion films or witches or war films or anything supernatural. It was always and will always be the war between good and evil, whether on in this life or in the afterlife. I think people with spirituality, people embracing spirituality more now, with them discovering it more, with them trying to really find inner peace through whichever way. If they couldn't find it through religion, they're turning to meditation and breathing and some form of spirituality where they're trying to connect with their higher self and the higher entity or energy or whatever it is. The kids talk about ball of energy. So these are all discussions that are happening, and films and series and books are all out there on these topics. But yes, there is a movement towards that. People are moving away from maybe organized religion. They're moving away from like these rules of what other people tell you to do, and they're just trying to find that connection with a divine being themselves.
Correct.
And that's a beautiful thing. And I think shows like this, important for shows like this to continue being made, only to give people hope that if you're struggling in one area, try and find this area. Don't be afraid to ask questions of the afterlife. Don't be afraid to wonder where your loved ones have gone. Will you ever see them? Connect with them. Don't be afraid of death. Understand that your deeds on this earth are what will carry you forward. But those deeds, only that higher being can judge, not your fellow human beings on earth.
Absolutely.
It's your core, your intention, and everything to be done with the purest of intentions.
Absolutely.
Like whatever you do for yourself, fine. But like as long as its repercussions are not hurting anyone physically, because you will get a lot of emotional blackmail from parents and people in society and saying you're hurting me by doing XYZ thing. But no, I'm not really hurting you. I'm just disappointing you maybe, or you're just not used to it. But am I physically like putting you under duress or stress? No, I'm not. That's just a mindset you have to change to overcome. And then you will set yourself free and therefore your offsprings or your loved ones free. But I don't know where I've gone with this, but yes.
No, it's beautiful. I think this is why I really resonate a lot with what was being said at the same time, whether we look at that or even the other sort of concepts. It's very personal, actually.
Because it's universal. These things are universal. It doesn't matter what caste, creed, religion you belong to.
Exactly.
We all have a body. We all have a spirit. We all came from somewhere and we will all go somewhere.
100%, absolutely. But look, I think on a final note, because I know I've been told to wrap up, but I have to ask you that I think at the same time, it's wonderful that I feel like Pakistani content is now really, it's wonderful to see the growth that it's having exponentially. The amount of talent that's there is absolutely brilliant, and the sort of really carefree and brazen sort of content we're seeing is also very satisfying as someone who loves to consume art. How do you feel about it going global in terms of the content that we're seeing? I mean, obviously we had Miss Marvel, you had Joyland. So how do you feel about this growth that's having, especially with Barzakh as well, now emerging as well on the scene?
I'm really excited for it. I think we've got such beautiful stories to tell and such fantastic creators, directors, actors, and each country brings their own flavor, brings their own culture into play with their stories, with the way they look, with the way they talk, with their values. And it's a beautiful thing to see Pakistani content now put on the globe, because it was really on the back burner for a long time. And we all just have a very unique way of telling our own stories, whether it's Bollywood or Pakistan or Korea or Turkey or Hollywood or indie film genres. And with the birth of OTT platforms, we've kind of gotten to see all kinds of content, and everyone's found their favorite. And Pakistan has done really well with being a favorite in terms of, the Pakistani drama scene. But we are more than that. Like, what else can we show? That's a huge asset we have, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. But there are also other stories and other creators telling different stories, which need to be heard. And things like Cake and Barzakh and Churails and Joyland and Zindagi Tamasha. They're just really beautiful, nuanced stories that have a universal theme and impact. And it's important for the world to see that, we also think like this out of the box, and that we also have these stories to tell.
And I think I'm really grateful for people like Shailja Kejriwal, who have really honestly acted as that middle ground, which actually
Yes.
joins two countries which were actually one, but thanks to the British and a few politicians, we got divided. But I'm loving to see this whole movement that art binds everyone and forms everyone, storytelling binds everyone. And I think it's so empowering to see that. And I think series and content like Barzakh is a really huge testament to that. So I'm really grateful to the entire team, especially at Zindagi and ZEE5, for really, bringing this. And to you as well, Sanam, for being such a
Thank you.
wonderful guest, as always. Thank you so much for joining me on Filme Shilmy. And a big thanks to Fawad too, but unfortunately, due to technical issues, had to drop off during the call.
Yes.
And obviously episodes of Barzakh are now streaming as well on, I think, on a weekly basis, right?
Twice a week. So tonight is episode 4. It's in an hour. I think it's one of all of our favorite episode. I think there's a lot happening. Yeah.
All right. So we'll definitely check that out, but make sure you do watch Barzakh. It's a great. Oh, and Tuesdays and Fridays, I've been told.
Tuesdays and Fridays on YouTube. Yes.
The perfect days of the week. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sanam. It was so wonderful to sort of catch up with you again, and congratulations on such a wonderful, wonderful show. I can't wait to complete it, and I hope we dissect it when you're next here in London for sure.
Inshallah, yes. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye, Sanam. Bye.